Welcome back to WeakT Gaming. What's up, YouTube? Today's video is taken from our Torment Tides of Numenera live streams. If you're not familiar, Torment is an isometric RPG that includes a lot of reading, so please sit back, enjoy story time, and give us a like or a comment on the video at the end. Is this the unders? This is the underbelly. I don't want to go to the underbelly yet. I'm not ready. I'm not ready for the underbelly. There's other things I still want to do with my life. Dude, what is that sound? This young woman wears finely polished armor and paces back and forth restlessly on the walkway. Her long hair is lustrous and healthy, and her whole form exudes a wholesome vitality. When she sees you, she raises her voice in greeting. Welcome, friend, to the Fifth Eye. She strides closer to speak more softly. You come at an exciting time. I have been trying to convince some veteran warriors of their eminent suitability to join the endless battle. So far, they have rebuffed me, but perhaps you can succeed where I have failed. Why don't you tell me about yourself? I am Clarion. I seek strong warriors, brave souls, to fight in the endless battle, to hold back the advance of the enemy. Can you tell me about the endless battle? Much as it sounds, she says. It stemmed from a rift between the changing god and one of his offspring, and has endured for hundreds of years, raging over the same battlefields using the deadliest technology of the ancients. The landscape is scarred and pitted beyond recognition. The walls between dimensions are thin there. Every day, horrors cross into our world. She stands, arms akimbo. Worse, in recent years, the struggle has expanded. Nearby settlements founded to provide material support for the combatants or existing there long before the two sides came to rage on their borders have been engulfed by the spreading chaos. She frowns. It is not too late to change the course of the battle. If only warriors of proven mettle would join the fight. That is why I am here. That is why I beg for your help. A glorious conflict. So many have grown stronger in its wake. What side are you recruiting for? The Changing Gods. He has always been the patron of Sega's Cliffs. Perhaps we would not exist if not for his lives and his cast-offs. Certainly we would not be as we are. She pauses. But that is not the only reason. The Changing Gods' forces have allied with the towns and villages of the Verxolian Waste? Verxolian? Okay, sure. Use words. We seek to prevent the endless battle from expanding beyond its borders, growing in size once again. The enemy has attempted to sweep across the plain before. They tricked the Changing Gods' allies centuries ago, destroyed an army of sand knights, and took half the settlements in the waste. We won't let them do it again. Who is the enemy you're fighting? The armies of the first cast-off. They have never been friends to the people of Sega's Cliffs. She frowns. The first cast-off is long dead, but still her forces hold a grudge against her sire and his patron city. If I help you, will I get a reward? Of course, I am not a wealthy woman, but I have allies in the city who are. The more veterans you convince to join the battle, the more you will be paid. Tell me about these veterans you hope to recruit. They have fought in countless battles and emerged victorious. They have made decisive forays that turned entire wars. They are clever and thoughtful, though I know only their reputation. The third inversion, for instance, saw them reach into a new dimension and I won't bore you with the details, but they were integral to an offensive that would have changed the course of that conflict. Maybe they're tired of war. She shakes her head. Conflict shapes us all. It sharpens us, makes us stronger than we ever thought we could be. If you hide from it, you'll never know what you might have become. Or worse, you'll be easy prey for those who are stronger or crueler than you. She clutches your shoulders. These veterans have grown tired and complacent. I want to help them recapture what they lost. No, I want to make them even greater than they were. Even if they become prey, it will make whomever hunts them very strong. Sure, I'll help you recruit the veterans. You will have my gratitude and a generous reward if you can succeed in this, friend. She begins to point. At the bar, you see Leto, the woman clad in desert robes. Behind the bar, Ferroc. At the table there, Ziobi. She lowers her voice again. With Ziobi, you see Theraboras. He is older, but he has great experience. She indicates the final target with her chin. And then the crowning piece, Dama. He's their leader. Alright. Who to talk to first?
Fine.
What's up, Leto? Though this woman's face is young, she has been beaten hard by the sun. She wears a tight-fitting skin suit under loose desert robes. Her eyes are deep and unsettling black, with no whites to be seen. Occasional streaks of light race across them, flashing in the shadows of her hood like stars plummeting from the sky. I am Leto, she says. I saw your coming. Now you are here. Leto's mind is inscrutable. Your thoughts reflect back at you from 1,000 angles, like shining light onto a mirrored ball. Yeah, I'm looking for people to join in this battle. Dama is still here, is he not? I follow his lead. He believes one of our old foes is present in the city, and if he believes it, I do as well. I will not abandon him should he need me. Okay, what can you tell me about yourself? To the northeast, in the middle of the Lost Sea, there is a small town called Jerboa. Dwarfed by the magnificence of the oasis of Myrojolius, Jerboa is a poor town dependent on the charity of its neighbor. She nods to the bartender, and he refills her drink, floating a bottle through the air without touching it. I was born in the slums. The Gibra, residents of the city, would sometimes tour our ghetto. One of them saw my eyes and declared me touched by their god, Nykuel. They taught me the deep secrets of their church and showed me how to comprehend the tapestry in my mind. But one day I saw a light flare in Sagus Cliffs. Though this city and mine suffer hostilities, I knew that I must brave those dangers, for I saw the darkening storm. She grips your sleeve. I see the futures. I will not be able to return home, but I arrived in time to aid Dama in his struggle against the adversaries. For a time, I was able to read the strands to help our team prepare against the adversaries' attacks. But they learned to cloak themselves against me, and all I could see of their intent was a generalized darkness. I am of little use against the adversaries now, but I remain to help against other foes. Can you tell me about the people here? I know the stories of my comrades in arms, their past and their future. I have a deep bond with Ziobi, a friendship with Therabos. My respect for Dama knows no limit, and I have fond recollections of Ferox's ready wit. She shakes her head. I wish I could unravel the skein of perception and live in the present, as do so many others. But it is not to be, and so I scramble across the web of time and know the threads of my friends. Can you tell me about the adversaries? She spits on the ground. I waste water speaking of them. I do not know what they are, but I know what they represent. They are the death of possibility, an existential threat to humanity. They sweep minds into themselves, consume individuality, and worship power. They have learned to counter mine. I am helpless against them. And did you know I'd be coming here? Skeins of lives weave together in a tapestry. Your thread glows. It emerges from the sky, and a great darkness follows in your wake. She waves a hand as if pushing through cobwebs. I have seen you. Where you go, that is beyond my powers. Tell me anything about the people I travel with. Ask and I will tell. Tell me about Callie. She turns her unsettling gaze onto Callie. You are in many realities, singularity seeker. In some you destroy yourself. Others see you triumphant over ashes. Or you subsume yourself in yourself. She shakes her head. Glittering possibilities, few probabilities. Can you tell me the steps that lead to my destruction? What do I do to succeed? Your future shifts even as you ask the question. The sisters to your right seek advantage. The ones to your left compromise. You are on the edge of the blade. Your choices are yours, and your future echoes through realities. All you need do is step. Trafficking supposition and simile. What makes you any better than a hedge witch prognosticating in lack entrails? What makes me different? She smiles wide. I actually see the future, Callie. Your path is fraught, and you are your own worst enemy. All right, well, tell me about Tiber then. For the Gallo Glass, I have only one prediction. Change your ways or live with your regrets forever. Forever? That is a long time, my dear, and I'm told nothing lasts that long. She turns her head toward him and looks away, shivering. I have spoken. Want to ask other questions? Nope. All right. Catch you later. Hey, F-man. The bartender is a tall, powerfully built man with nut-brown skin and a bushy beard. He radiates strength and confidence. He moves with speed when necessary and remains almost motionless the rest of the time, like a predator waiting to leap. Yet even when he prepares a drink, he doesn't touch a thing. His brow furrows slightly, and the bottles and glasses lift themselves. When he sees you, he smiles broadly. Welcome to the Fifth Eye, friend. I am Feriok. Feriok's mind is a careful blank. You can't read anything from him. Clarion wants warriors. Ha! No way. This bar is my life, and I've done my time. I've got no interest in fighting for people I don't know, for a cause I don't believe in. You go right ahead, but count me out. He pauses for a moment, lost in thought, or communion. You know what? Maybe you could convince Clarion to take her recruiter act somewhere else. If you want to, I mean. But really, what she's doing and what she's thinking is pretty offensive. Tell me about this place. The Fifth Eye is a bar for psychics. At least it is now. In the prior worlds, near as we can tell, it was an old pumping station. All these pipes lead down to some reservoirs deep beneath the city, and they pump whatever is in the reservoirs up here. He laughs. Anyway, some damn fools started drinking from the pipes, and some other fools started in too. Some of them died, and some got drunk as hell. After a few whiles, vague enough for you, they got pretty good at figuring out which were safe and which weren't. And that's when they figured they'd start making money off the place. Reason psychics flock here is because the building dampens out the psychic noise of the city. He grins. Drinks help too. Feriok means to say that he is only involved in the delivery of these drinks rather than their creation. Given his skills, this is only right and proper. He throws a hand across his forehead. I have been maligned by this desert-dwelling interloper. So this is a bar for psychics. What does that mean? It means this is a place where psychics can unwind, get away from the city, get away from the noise. You know what it's like to be a psychic. Let me paint a picture. Imagine every time you're going to sleep, someone comes and starts screaming in your ear. Or objects in the room start whispering about how they want to burn. Or they might tell you their secret names and how to make them float and dance at your command. Or maybe every person you meet is like a house with all its doors and windows thrown open. You can't help but look in to plunder their secrets, and underneath it all you hear their silent judgments, the truths they hide even from themselves. Pauses to concentrate on a floating cloth as it wipes a mug clean. Then the mug places itself on a rack. Folks think that it is a blessing to have these powers, and sometimes it really is, especially when you can join your friends to make something great. But, shrugs, can be hard. Hateful, and you can never tell when you're going over the edge of insanity. Alright. Thanks for nothing, buddy. Thaboros. This man's mind is sealed off from you, like trying to read the thoughts of a book that's been glued shut. The man is old and strong, his face lined with years of brutal experience. His face is aquiline, his nose sharp. He wears a broad-brimmed hat, and his voice is a low rasp. I am Theberos, he says. Tell me your story. Make it a good one. I was born falling from the sky, and now I'm trying to repair a chamber that will stop a nightmare. Theberos watches you intently as you speak, and when you finish, he nods sharply. You're telling the truth, he says. A lot of people embellish, or they lie outright. Try to pretend they're more than they are, so people will remember them as giants. More often than not, they just end up looking ridiculous. Pats you on the shoulder. You've given me a rare treat. Thanks. So what do you want? Can't help you with your chamber, but maybe there's something else. What can you tell me about the adversaries? His eyes narrow and he leans in close. I don't want to talk them up. It's important to understand that they are not unbeatable. They are not immortal. They're tough. Hells yes. They can be stopped. Leans back. That said, what are they? You've heard of spirits, beings of pure thought? That's what they are, except that they're more like living hate. Like every nightmare of fear that you can't escape. A vortex of despair. And that's why we fight. Because they're poison.
Making a note.
But like, what about the endless battle? Not while Dama's convinced that one of the adversaries still lives. No. Besides, I've got other concerns. Maybe later. Tell me about yourself. I'm the brains of this operation. He gestures with a lazy hand around the table. Without me, they'd lose the thread of their thoughts and spend all their time wandering in dreams. We're just trying to get away from your nagging, Dama says, tipping his friend a week. It's that nagging that sharpens my word, Dama. Though I admit that my words are probably getting duller every second I spend talking to you. He turns back to you. Let's call me a warrior of language. Words are my weapons and my treasures. They might be pretty sounds to you, but to me, they're tools that pry open your imagination and leave you vulnerable to my friends here. I build pictures, set the scenes, and create mazes in your mind. He takes a careful sip of his drink. I'm also the last person in the world to know the lost words of Kra. He closes his eyes tightly, and when he opens them again, you see worms of light dancing in his eyes. They're gone again with his next blink. They're a weaponized meme. A thought that sticks in your head, a tune you can't get rid of, a saying that echoes in your mind until it drives you mad and melts your brain. Ziobi lays a hand on his arm. You don't have to talk about this, Theberos. She turns to you. It's eating away at him. He has it compartmentalized, but he says that he can feel it burning away at his mind. I feel the power in you. Can you help him? What can you tell me about these words? His long face grows more somber, if that's possible. Those words were the ruin of an ancient civilization. I had this story from a dying Nevajin. Nevajin? Okay, sure. Before I wrested the last word from its mind. Goes like this. The scholars of that age had found deep truths about the world, and they stumbled across these words. They wrote the knowledge down and sealed the words away with the strongest warnings they could find. And then they killed themselves so that they wouldn't infect their kind. Problem was, they didn't count on their writings sticking through the ages. Some skist-brained fool ignored the warnings on the bindings, read the words, and spilled them out into the civilization that had grown up in that spot over the millennia. 8 rulers of the Kra, 8 words, and a continent-spanning empire fell, its people bleeding from their eyes with hatred in their hearts. Survivors tried the scholar who'd released the words, buried him in stone. The words were lost again. A Nevajin, a hero, found the imprisoned scholar. They tried to wipe away the knowledge he'd spoken and removed him from the world. Had the Nevajin stuck there, it would have seen the dust itself rewriting the words of the Kra on the floor in the wind. He bows his head. But it was too late. The words had infested his mind. I found the words. I burned them from the world. Trapped them in a maze in my mind. And they're near the exit. What are you going to do about that weaponized meme? Well, I could always kill myself. Honestly, I don't think anyone else could carry it, and the alternatives are too horrific to bear. He tilts his glass towards them. I love my colleagues here, but can they handle the words of the Kra? I don't think so. Right now I've got them locked into a mental construct no one has even the slightest idea how to build. I've got space in my mind. He leans back and crosses his arms. Really? And how is it that you're a better custodian for the words of Kra than I am? Oh, yikes. He focuses on you, and you feel something like the skittering of spiders across your mind. They plunge inside, and suddenly you sense his presence in the labyrinth. And you can feel his mind recoil. No, I don't think so. It's not just your mind in there. Many minds share that space. Honestly, I don't trust that you'll guard the word. Well, you're right. I don't have a solution, but I might have questions. What can you tell me about this place? Ask Dama, ask Lido, ask Zioba, your Feriak. I just drink here. Alright, well, catch you later, bro. Ziobi. This woman's face seems timeless. Neither old nor young. Unblemished, but somehow not perfect. Her dark and wavy hair floats like a cloud to her shoulders. When she speaks, her voice is musical, almost artificial. I'm Ziobi, and you are? She concentrates, fingers pressed to her temples. When her table mates start smiling, she pulls them away. I'm not actually a mind reader like these two, just a joker. So you have no mental powers? Oh, I do, but they extend in other directions. She cocks an eyebrow, and her glass rises from the table to her mouth. She sips daintily, and then the glass descends to the table. Tell me, are you from the area? A small hamlet, slightly isolated, but still within the broader Sagas Protectorate? Somewhere near Arvrin Wood, perhaps? I don't actually know where I'm from. I was a falling star. Oh, what? How is it that you know the language here? You must be particularly observant. Your voice, your inflections, your mannerisms, they speak of someone whose upbringing was based on an older version of the Sagas Cliffs dialect. That suggests an isolated aldea, or enclave of some sort. Although she claimed not to be a mind reader, Ziobi's mind is impenetrable. She might as well be one of the bartender's pumps.
Making a note.
How do you feel about the endless war? I am through with war. Finished. I want nothing more to do with conflict. I have served my time. My colleagues might help you, but I refuse. Don't ask again. Can you tell me about yourself? I am Ziobi. I hail from the western reaches of the Clock of Kala, near Mathunis. She bows her head modestly. I have had the opportunity to serve with my fellows here in a number of disturbances. Though if you wish to hear more about those conflicts, you must speak with Dama. I am their support, their backup, and if need be, their physical offense. What's going on with this place? It's the Fifth Eye. It's where the psychics and psionics of Sagas Cliffs have been coming for generations, to protect ourselves from the noise of the city. Life is easier when you're among friendly people. Those of your own kind, she laughs. Though not everyone here is technically one of us. Some of the people you see here are manifestations of our minds. Some of them were called here by our minds. Some have come from other dimensions even. She leans back, tapping a finger on her lips. I have a challenge for you. One of the 5 of us who own this bar is a projection. Talk to the other veterans of the psychic wars and see if you can figure out which one of us is the projection. You can ask each one of us only once, so make your questioning count. Alright. Dama of the Bloom. The wispy mustache on this pudgy middle-aged man would be almost comical if it weren't for his deep and despairing eyes. They are the eyes of a man who has passed through the gates of alien hells and returned, though not necessarily whole. His fingers, tightly wrapped around some fine glassware, are strong and slim. A musician's fingers, or a strangler's. You can't read his thoughts at all. Might as well try to read the thoughts of a wall. Before you open your mouth to speak, he says, "What is that place in your head?" It's a labyrinth. A labyrinth. He raises an eyebrow and leans back in his seat. That's a novel construction. Starts ticking items off on his fingers. I've seen people construct psychic fortresses, cathedrals, graveyards, hellscapes, and vortices from which no life escapes. All dramatic places, all powerful and forbidding, but a labyrinth, well, it's a whole different construction. That speaks to cunning and guile. Do you mind if I take a quick look? Seems like a strange thing to carry and not know anything about. His voice is polished and clean, friendly but intent. Go ahead. My thanks, though it's not often the wisest choice to let strangers enter your mind. I'll not do you any harm, might help even. He smiles to take the sting out of his words. Ready? He breathes in, and suddenly you feel you are a mote, tucked inside a gigantic prism, with eyes peering in at you from all around. You are held tightly in an enormous fist. You are a flimsy piece of glass, held up to the light. Somehow, it is not utterly terrifying. His words come to you as if from a distance. A shared space, such depths, such twists. It builds itself around your experience, around those who share it with you. Shared spaces are occasionally dangerous, so I sharpened a part of your mind. His voice draws closer, and the pressure eases. I didn't probe deeply, but this would be an excellent battleground. If you lured a foe to you, you could trap it within your mind. You could destroy it. Oh, introductions, yes. +1 intellect pool, maximum intellect pool is now 12. Nice. He sets the glass down and shakes your hand. I'm Dama, Dama of the Bloom. He pinches the bridge of his nose, his eyes tightly shut, and you feel a gentle and powerful presence surround your consciousness. I have a request for you. It might seem strange, but you have an interesting topography to your mind. You might be able to help us. The Fifth Eye is home to psychic veterans. We fought an incursion of nightmares, I suppose. Nightmares slithering into the city's shared dream space, eating minds and leaving husks behind. We called them the adversaries. We burned them out and cauterized the wounds through which they infected our reality. But I can't shake the nagging feeling that one of them survived and waits to strike. I trust my intuition, and now it's telling me to ask for your help. Be happy now.
I'll remember that.
What do I need to do? He breathes a sigh of relief. My thanks. I feel the adversary. I know it's here. I know it's close. It's watching us. But it's hiding its presence, and I fear it will strike when our guard is down. It may well be in the Fifth Eye even now. He shrugs helplessly. Sadly, our Fifth Eye is blind. He jerks a thumb at the bartender. It might be that our foe has blinded us, but it might not have shielded itself from you. Look for it, and tell me if you find something unusual. Clarion seems to hold you in high regard. She wants you in the endless battle. I've got more pressing matters closer to home. The adversary, remember? I'm not going anywhere until we've dealt with that nightmare. Tell me about yourself. I told you. They call me of the Bloom. I was born there. I knew nothing of the world outside for the longest time. I thought it was normal to play in passages made of gut and tissue, to hide from slavers and diverticuli, to watch visitants staggering in from other worlds. I learned how to read people there and how to understand them. Then one day I left the Bloom and came to Sega's Cliffs, and I discovered the world was a different place than I'd thought, a better place. That's when I learned to fight. That's why I learned to fight. He gestures at himself. This isn't a warrior's body, of course, not in the usual sense. He smiles, and a great pressure swells in your head and vanishes before you can even register alarm. But I'm not usual. No one in the Fifth Eye is. We're psychics, psionics, seers. Call us mind-benders or thought-rippers, but we're warriors. We keep the minds of Sega's Cliffs safe from the threats they don't even imagine. The old man growls. They'd go crazy if they did. Not that they're exactly paragons of sanity at the best of times. Can you tell me about the adversaries? Good question. Better if I show you. He closes his eyes, and you feel an insistent nudge in your mind. Then your vision goes black, replaced with a nightmare. You see a void, oblivion, a place where black stars hang and shriek with formless rage. Violet lightning arcs through the sky, and you witness enormous masses of pustulant orbs raging against each other. Streams of conscious thought rocket from them, and they scream of need, desire, hatred. Other emotions arise with these, wisps of mental energy that curl like steam. They brush your consciousness with a touch beslimed with the unknowable hungers of an alien mind. These luminous wisps quest through invisible cracks in the dimensional walls. New worlds, unsuspecting minds, brilliant lights enfolded in the adversary's decaying orbits, imprisoned stars winking out forever. They came through the blooms, shining and tenebrous at the same time, he whispers. They offered games, riches, promises for the future. I felt their passage and was afraid, and I hid my mind from their questing touch. I felt them reach for me, and I cowered in my shell. Zyobie lays a hand on Dama's shoulder. Those who didn't hide saw the lure, and they were drawn into that unwinnable mental game. Attracted by the light of the adversary's minds, they followed their own dreams into madness. Psychics and normal people alike, the ruin of the city's minds was... She shakes her head. You were wise enough to see beyond the lure and into the danger. You couldn't stand against them yourself, and so you hid. We all did. Not all, he growls. Some stood. They played the game and got cracked like glow globes. I felt them die, and their spirits got sucked into a vortex of endless fear. You did the right thing, Dama, and I've told you that before. Fine, fine, Dama replies, waving the words away. But you've seen what the adversaries are like now, inhuman, with no negotiation. Maybe they're communicating with us and we don't understand them, but I tell you, if this is their hello, I don't want anything else to do with them. So those of us who survived that initial incursion gathered here. We set aside our differences and we fought back, but not without our own losses. How do you fight the adversaries? Are you thinking you might use your labyrinth to trap it? Don't. Don't do it. He steeples his fingers under his chin and considers. Though, wait. It might work. It might. He looks at Thebros and Zyobie. They exchange a wordless communication, and he shrugs. We used a spotter, someone trained to recognize their scent. He'd give them the briefest engagement, enough to whet their appetites, and he'd bring them to a battlefield of our choosing. The adversary will tempt you with something. It will tap into the parts of your mind you had forgotten. Ignite a desire. It will offer bargains, tastes of power, and try to draw you toward its way of thinking. The key is to keep control of the imagery and the metaphors your mind conjured together. That's where I come in, Thebros leans forward on the table, his gaunt face seeming even more drawn. I'd feed words and stories to our spotter, help him build an internal story that seemed to mirror what the adversary told, and I'd lay a pathway toward our battlefield. He'd walk down that pathway, and the adversary would be extruding itself into our world right alongside him. His smile is hard and feral, and then we'd close off the exits and get to work cutting it to pieces. So, Dama says, tell a story. Resist the adversary's metaphors, build in the details of your hardened mental space, draw it in, and then use your familiarity with the place to destroy the bastard. He swallows the rest of his drink. If you're going to try, and again, I can't emphasize enough that you should seek our help, but if you do it alone, gods, I can't believe I'm saying this, if you do it alone, be careful. Alright, well that's all for now, I guess. Hello, Sir Arthur. This man has leathered, dark brown skin and hair as white as the full moon. He peers at you from beneath long strips of eyebrows, sucking on a long pipe that has been made from either segmented wood or the leg of an enormous insect. His clothing is blue and formal, like a priest or a professor of some kind. All over him, on his belt, in every pocket, on both shoulders, even hovering in the air around his head, are glowing, chittering devices of all kinds. Let me guess. He sucks from his pipe. A ball of green steam floats away from his mouth. You're a traveler, that much is clear. An explorer. Yet you have the look of a farmer visiting a teeming metropolis for the first time. He taps various relics on his person. Never seen the like, have you? Fortunately for you, I adore educating folks on the subject of the Numenera. I've also traveled extensively and seen much of the world. Go ahead. Ask me whatever you would like to know. A metallic bug-like creature perched on the side of his head begins glowing. Crawls into his ear and he pauses as though listening. After a moment, the bug scuttles out and resumes its perch. He leans forwards and lowers his voice. So you're a mind reader, eh? Well, I won't hold it against you, but old Arthur wouldn't walk into a bar of psychics without mental protection. So don't expect to read anything from me. How did you know I could read your thoughts? Nerman told me. He points at the bug now burying itself in his shock of white hair. He can detect that sort of thing, and then this one blocks it. He pulls a circular device from his pocket. Don't like letting people know what I'm thinking. Too dangerous. He puts the device back into his vest. That's the new disc, of course. My first psychic blocker used to melt brain matter. Provoked people to no end, especially those who didn't know their friends were psychic. Alright, who are you? Goodness, forgive me. He stretches out his hand. Sir Arthur Tori, traveler, explorer, and lifelong student of the Numenera. I have seen everything between here and the Steadfast, and I have studied Numenera of all kinds for decades. There is no man more knowledgeable about the Ninth World than he who sits before you, I assure you. Why are you here? Knowledge, of course. I have traveled all over the Steadfast and the beyond. But I had to know what was beyond the beyond. Who knows how much time I have left in this world? Wanted to see for myself. Okay. But, like, why are you here in this tavern? Libations! He lifts his glass enthusiastically. I'm trying to determine the nature of these fantastic liquids. Also, the people here are quite informative. No better place to learn about a city than its taverns. Takes a deep swig from his glass. So, like, what are the Numenera? His eyes light up, as too do a number of devices on his person, though you cannot see why. The Numenera are practically everything around you. We live among the detritus of uncountable civilizations, many of which were more powerful than you or even I can imagine. Everything they left us is the Numenera. Weapons, power sources, medicines, gels, plants, animals. Why, even the very dirt in the ground and shins in your pocket are examples of Numenera. It's such a broad term that the Order of Truth has categorized the Numenera with terms like oddities, ciphers, artifacts. Of course, any true student of the Numenera considers these categories too broad still. I have my own distinctions, but that is neither here nor there. Takes a puff from his pipe. In any case, it is the Numenera that power the wonders of the world. From an explorer's esoteries to the datasphere to the drinks in this very tavern. What's the difference between oddities, ciphers, and artifacts? Takes a long puff on his pipe before answering. For the most part, he says, those terms refer to how useful a device is. It makes sense. As wonderful and powerful as the relics of the past are, nobody in this world gives a damn unless it can fix their problems. He sighs. They don't care how it works or where it came from, eh? But if they can use it to feed themselves, fight off an errant Grask, or at least get them a few extra shins, now they're interested. He shows you the back of his fist and sixth out of thumb. Oddities are the least useful. They do something all right. Heat your drink, float in the air, make everything you say sound like music, whatever. But it's rarely something anyone can get any utility out of. Oddities are fascinating, but pragmatically they're only worth a few shins. He sticks his pointer finger in the air next to his thumb. Ciphers. Now, those might do anything. Heal your body, shoot a blast of flame, teleport you somewhere safe, and so on. But they're volatile. Whatever they do, they'll do it just once. If you know what you're doing, putting too many together, if you don't know what you're doing, putting too many together can give you what's called cipher sickness. Puts up a third finger. Artifacts won't do that. That term belongs to devices that last. Maybe not forever, but more than a one-shot. What's cipher sickness? Terrible. Just terrible. He sets down his pipe. Ciphers are volatile devices, as I told you. If you know what you're doing, you can separate, insulate, quarantine, thus carrying more ciphers than your average explorer without ill effects. Something on his person starts chirping. He taps his pocket to stop it, but otherwise pays it no mind. But if you carry more than you can handle, those ciphers react in unpredictable ways, draining your energy, wearing you down, or worse. He leans forward conspiratorially. This one time, I saw a cluster of ciphers bond to each other and gain what I can only describe as sentience. Ripped my assistant to pieces before tearing off into the cold desert. Haven't seen it since. He picks up his pipe and sticks it back in his mouth. It was completely unexpected. I felt bad about that assistant, but, well, science and all that. He shrugs. Fortunately, most effects of cipher sickness are temporary, easily cured by simply getting rid of some ciphers. And how would you categorize the Numenera? A fascinating question. He sets down his drink and leans forward. I'll give you the brief version, because you obviously have places to be. Put simply, I am less interested in how useful a device is than in its means of function. He takes a quick puff from his pipe and sets that down as well. Now, the technology of the prior worlds is far too incomprehensible and varied for us to truly understand which civilizations created what. But we can define some basic categories. Counts each one on his fingers. Many devices deal with fundamental forces, gravity, magnetism, sound, light, even time itself. Automatons and created intelligences fall under artificial life. Biotechnology covers a wide variety of Numenera. Many plants and animals that we consider natural were in fact created by prior worlds for some arcane purpose. The bloom may fall under this category. Someday I'll hire a team to find out, if I can find anyone reckless enough. There are chemical devices, as well as those dealing in various forms of matter, metals, liquids, crystals, and conversions between the three. His eyes light up. The most interesting are also the most esoteric. Nanotechnology, which covers much of what common folk consider magic. Transdimensional tech. I scrolled the wrong way. Transdimensional tech and technology related to the Dasphere itself. He leans back, reinserting his pipe. But these are just the classifications I prefer. The Numenera defy definition. What is the datasphere? It's difficult to say exactly. On a most basic level, the datasphere is information stored within the air itself. But it's much, much more than that. Several of the prior worlds created similar spheres of knowledge around or throughout our world. Our term datasphere encompasses all of them, the connections between them, and the effects thereof. For example, he lifts a knobbled finger. People talk about glimmers, visions from another place or time. These are actually some portion of the datasphere accessing human minds. Some ciphers, even some nanos, can access arcane knowledge from the datasphere. Why, even so-called telepathy is sometimes two people communicating through the datasphere without realizing it. The datasphere, as a subject of research, is far too large for several lifetimes. Alas, I have only been able to spend my time delving into devices that seem to use it, but not the datasphere itself, or, rather, the various and incompatible networks that comprise the datasphere. Perhaps someday. Callie had been leaning in, listening intently, and leans back with disappointment etched across her features. It is a worthy field of study. I had hoped that we might share our knowledge. Perhaps when you've acquired several lifetimes, as I have, we'll speak further on the subject. So, what are esoteries? Esotery is the common name for any of various powers or abilities that cannot be explained by our understanding of science. Nanos are capable of esoteries more than most, but other people and even creatures sometimes exhibit powers that we would call esoteries as well. What are shins? This guy's a talker. He peers at you over his glasses. You are new, aren't you? Shins are currency. The Aeon priests believe that some very ancient prior worlds used specific metals or crystals as currency per their rarity. But, of course, no metal is truly rare anymore. Half the nanos I've met can transmute metal into crystal. Why, I once transmuted flesh into gold, though not entirely on purpose. Anyway, Rarity is useless as a means of value, so the value of shins is necessarily a social construct. Shins can be any coin-like object or jagged bit of interesting material, though I think you'll find there is a remarkable agreement as to what does and does not constitute a true shin. Many realms in the Steadfast actually mint their money, but you'd be hard-pressed to find a traveling merchant who didn't accept anything you had on you at the time. How is Drit part of the Numenera? Run your hand through the soil, son, and you'll find it's hardly soil at all. It is filled with the microscopic remains of ancient unknown technologies and structures, commonly known as Drit. Why, in some places, the Drit is even alive. He takes a sip from his mug. I don't recommend sleeping on the ground in those places, but by the way, terribly unnerving for the survivors. What's the Order of Truth? It's what you might call an organized religion, except it's not a religion. Oh, the members of the order call themselves priests, and their founder, the Amber Pope, but they don't worship anything per se, except perhaps their own intellects. I understand this town has its own branch of the order. They could answer your questions better than I. I'd like to ask about something else. How do you know so much about the Numenera? Cipher gathering was always the main source of income for my family. Alas, no more. But I have extended that penchant into pure research. It is not arrogant to say that mine is one of the greatest laboratories in the Steadfast. Why, an entire university has sprung up around my home. I specialize in research and experimentation. Prospective assistants apply almost daily, which is good considering how quickly we churn through them. He clears his throat. Like to know more about the world? Of course. Ask me anything you like. I've traveled all over the Ninth World, throughout the Steadfast and beyond. I even know a little about this part of the world, the so-called Beyond the Beyond. I've met explorers of all kinds and listened to countless stories. So what is it you would like to know? What can you tell me about the Steadfast? Much, my friend, much. Too much, in fact. The Steadfast is a collection of kingdoms and principalities far west of here, all the way at the end of the continent. He blows smoke from his mouth. It forms into a purple ball and drops to and then through the floor. It is where the Order of Truth holds sway more than anywhere else. There are several different kingdoms, along with scattered villages and aldeas, but they all swear fealty to the Amber Pope and his Aeon priests. He utters a small growl. The Order requires nobles of the Steadfast to fight against the Gaians, supposedly a cult to the north. I've never been there myself, so I don't know the truth, but it sounds like a waste of lives and resources if you ask me. It's why I keep my laboratory in the southern reaches, as far from the conflict as possible. He sucks on his pipe thoughtfully. Granted, the Order did ask me to leave after several incidents, but I was planning on moving anyway. Can you tell me about the Beyond? A wilderness between the Steadfast and here. Highly dangerous. His words seem meant to frighten, but he has an excited glimmer in his eye. Some of the most interesting claves and villages can be found there. I found one village whose people hovered a meter off the ground from birth to death. The villagers of another world tell you the exact method of your future death. Can't say how accurate they were, though several of my assistants tendered their resignations. Further out is the realm of the most deadly creatures, landscapes, and weather. Oh yes, he says, seeing your expression. The land and weather itself will rip you apart in several locations in the Beyond. You've heard of the Iron Wind? It is but one of the cruel rulers of that land, though perhaps the most infamous. A cloud of invisible machines altering the physical structure of anything and anyone it touches. He grins widely as he brings his cup to his lips. Truly terrible. Can you tell me about the areas beyond the Beyond? You're in it, friend. They call it the Sagus Protectorate, or at least this portion of it. There is Sagus Cliffs and the Bloom nearby. I've heard of places like Harith and Mar Jolios far to the east. I'm most interested to explore this Valley of Dead Heroes, heard so much about. A place to inter the dead. Bound to be some very interesting relics in a place like that. He sighs. In truth, I am only a recent arrival to this place, myself. You would do better speaking with the locals. What can you tell me about explorers? Brave and intrepid souls, my friend. Explorers come in all shapes and packages. but I think you will find that most people prefer to label the bravest explorers as glaives, nanos, or jacks. Glaives are the elite warriors of the world. Nanos are those who study the Numenera, using it to perform powerful esoteries. He taps a yellowish ash from his pipe. Jack is something of a catch-all term. They're mostly pragmatic folk who know a little fighting, a little Numenera, jacks of all trades, as it were. But explorers of any stripe are useful to have around, especially if you're expecting trouble. And why do they call this the Ninth World? An interesting question. He takes a preparatory swig from his cup. Oh, I can't talk anymore. I'm going to swig from my cup. One would think it is because 8 worlds came before us, but even a cursory study of the Numenera reveals far too much breadth and variation for there to have been a mere 8 prior worlds that created it all. One then might ask what qualifies as a world. We could say the first through 8th worlds are defined as the most powerful and influential civilizations of their eras, but even that fails under the most basic reasoning. If the previous 8 worlds we refer to were the greatest of the ancients, then what qualifies this world, wherein we cannot even understand the most basic theories governing a time augur, to be the 9th? The truth, I'm afraid, is that we call this the 9th world simply because that is what we have decided to call it. No more and no less. Okay, well, I'm truly satisfied with that horrifying conversation. Let's talk to O. Your eyes cannot focus on this person. Whether male or female, you cannot say, but it hums with a force that both attracts and repels you. You feel a sense of amusement as its regard settles upon you. You speak with O, it says. You have tasted the truth in the form of machine lubricant. You have contemplated the totality of human existence. Speak quickly and true. The world slows around you. The being has no mind to speak of. Where there should be thoughts, you instead sense only a deep, endless hole threatening to swallow your own mind. Where did you come from? You would not understand. Let me show you. Its eyes widen, expanding to fill the room. Your vision, your consciousness. You tumble into a starry immensity. Swirls of nebulae twist and knot, and in the hearts of these stellar clusters roar hungry vortices. You tumble helplessly into a myriad of them at once, torn apart and reformed in an instant, a being of pure light and will. You find yourself standing in the 5th eye again. Your nose is running and tears streak your cheeks. You wipe them away numbly and you realize your hand is streaked with blood. But I'm smarter. Too much information, too much knowledge. Had I shown you more, the energies that bind you together would have failed. So, like, who are you? I am O. You might call me an ultra-terrestrial, though I am far more. I am from beyond space, beyond time, above your comprehension. Your mind has chosen this form for me, and I am content to exist in this structure. But know that I exist also outside of your subjective experience. Some might describe me as superpositional, extraction of fundamental universal laws made tangible. It gestures languidly, and you understand perfectly. I am a word made flesh, a letter at least, a concept covered in a false skin, infinitely malleable, essentially unknowable. What does it mean to be a word? I was, am, will be. I see into the infinite past, into the illimitable future. When the cosmos erupted into a sea of light, I saw it. When the mechanism whines to a sad and creaking end, I will weep. At the moment the great wings of death enclose creation, I am the last vestige of dust, frozen, forever perfected. So, like, what are you doing here? I'm here to see the final attempt at entry by the adversaries. I'm here to offer a vision to Leto. Did you say this was the final attempt at entry by the adversaries? The adversaries thought to peel through realities, to devour this world as they have others. They have never lost. This world is their first taste of defeat. Within themselves, The eaten cores of their victims begin to stir. The adversaries will cease to exist in any meaningful form within a millennium if they are stopped here. This is an inflection point. If the warriors here succeed, the adversaries do not rise again for an aeon. So it is written. You said you had come to offer a vision to Leto? She is prescient. She is the mother of empires. The adversary's presence has polluted her vision. She has strayed from the page. I am here to reunite her with the truth. I do not intervene, but this story was true, and so it is true, and so this is not an intervention. The vision will come when you have left the city. Interesting. A moment. None here will know of our conversation. None will know its nature. None see me, nor will they recognize any sign of me. Even in this remarkable place, they cannot know. But I give you a gift, Cast-Off, and God and man. For yours is a true story. It is welcomed into the world. It was born from desire and will end in... But no, I do not tell your fortune. Light envelops you, and when you open your eyes, O is gone. Last Cast-Off permanently gained 4 health pool. Maximum health pool is now 27. I accept. Zig! Zig, zig, zig. Zig, zig, ah. The most distinguishing feature of this tall, vaguely awkward man is the yellow shirt he wears. He seems desperate to fade into the scenery. When he sees you notice him, he gives you a faint, uncomfortable grin. Something about him seems off, as if he were a flicker in the air or strangely two-dimensional. He does not seem to emit a sense of presence at all. Who are you? Aaron, called Isig, he almost whispers. I am not here. Tell me more about yourself. No, this is like a dream to me. Tell me anything about the people here. He shakes his head as if terrified to meet your gaze. What can you tell me about this place? Nothing. Why can't I sense you? Skist, he mutters. The yellow shirt fades away, and then the skin, muscle, and bone. What remains is a vaguely humanoid shimmer. I am Isig, Aaron, a trans-dimensional projection from a distant past. This abacus form, this is not the truth of me. Trapped in this body, but I am not this. What's an abacus? A ghost, trans-dimensional. It feeds. I only watch and learn. Where are you from? Distant past, epochs ago. Tuning, through time, to see, future, overshot. It shrugs vaguely. Maybe next visit. Can you affect this reality? Only words. The ghostly hands pass through you. Nothing touches. Only ideas. No physical energy conveyed. How'd you get this place? When casting through time, saw light drawn to civilized thought, admiring psychics. Alright, well, have fun.
I'm going.
Almus, the Soul Keeper. For a moment, you are not entirely sure if you look upon a construct or a human. The plastic sheen of this pale man's skin suggests artificiality. But if he is a construct, he is so cunningly constructed, so close to the human baseline, that the illusion is nearly perfect. Except his head is a trifle too large, his eyes black buttons. Then you realize the truth. He is a visitant, his home many millions of miles distant. Almus, my name. What can you tell me of yourself? He lifts his great head slowly and fixes you with a dolorous gaze. I am Almus. I am the keeper of souls, last of my kind, only survivor of a civilization that spanned time and space. Now they are gone, their stars black. Reality's winds carry me. He turns his head back towards his drink. What happened to your people? The highest caste of power controlled we minds, ideas, for all souls of empire. A great web we wove, shining with power, but other nodes, they winked away. Until only I remained. His fingers drum on the tabletop. An image of my people I carry, but no place to make it real. Our domain lost, I alone, and paralyzed with indecision and fear. Did I destroy them? I was not discontented, or was I? How did you get here? He looks around. Not my time, not my place. Yet, when the connection to home broke, a beacon shone here. 5 minds drew me, a light in darkness. They were not a light to understand. They were safety, surety, while a new home I find. In this place I have clear thought, untarnished. How did your civilization die? A doubt arose. It took seed, took flight. These thoughts connected to our network. These questions spread like disease. Trust, mistrust rooted. Nodes decohered. Without nodes, without control of dreams, the civilization falls, and then they are gone. I alone remain. What was the doubt? I do not know. I do not recall. I know. I recall. I think you should tell me of the doubt, because I know you're aware. I do. Yes. It was my doubt. Mine. My question. I asked only, what if our way is not best? What if our people have desires of their own, wants that we do not give? He places a single hand across his eyes, then slowly slides it away. The others began to see and question. Questions gave way to self-doubt. Self-doubt gave way to self-hate. I wanted only to know, what is best? How do we become better? Not to tear us down, but I shone a bright light on behavior, on truth. But our center could not hold under truth. His wet, terrified eyes fixed on yours. Was I to blame? Is civilization's end fixed on me? In dreams I see their faces, but not their minds. Tell me truly, is the fault mine? Are you sure that they're gone? Horror dawns on his face. Is this why I cannot feel them? Why I retain only an image? He closes his eyes and concentrates hard. Around the bar, other patrons wince and cover their ears with their hands. You feel the brushing of a great and terrifying howl of anguish. He whispers, I am alone. I feel an echo, but no true response. As if they hide. He pulls his hands apart, and you have the sense of a vast network of power contained between them. He raises his hands before his face, and then he crumples his fist. The energy vanishes. I have severed the last connection, the last hope. If they exist still, they must exist without me. Let me be forgotten. No more, he whispers, no more. Drops his head and weeps. You draw closer, but the wispy form of the woman in the booth does not clarify. You can hardly discern the details of her ghostly face. You hear a chorus of whispering female voices that swarm around her like chance moths. Listen to the whispers. They brush against your mind just below the level of your conscious thought. You hear them, but not with your ears. You can only make out snatches of the whispers in your mind. You killed me, created me, never wanted to die. Study her face more carefully. You peer more closely at her, and she takes no notice of you. Her features are those of a teenage woman, leaving childhood behind. Your memory sparks faintly. These clothes look familiar to you. Wait. They're familiar because they were the fashion in Sega's Cliffs 9 centuries ago. Your mind has dredged that association from its depths. Hello. She's been ignoring you, but without a transitional state, her face is suddenly and furiously focused on yours. Another flicker and her hands wrap around your throat. Ghost or not, her fingers are very real and they are choking the life from you. Try to escape. Nice. Got the step pool back. Woo. You manage to wrest her fingers from your throat, and you hurl her away. You come up in a crouch, ready for another attack, but she is looking away from you, as if nothing had happened. Who are you? Again, in a flash, she is upon you, her fingers digging into her throat. Her fingers digging into her throat? Let's try something weird. Her fingers dig deeper. She's not just compressing your trachea. She's tearing your throat out. You choke and cough, drowning on your blood, but she is latched inside you. And the last thing you see is her rage-twisted face.
I can't die.
Bro, what? Oops. Oops. It's the same ghostly woman who strangled you, but the fury is gone from her face, replaced with confusion. She looks around. Her gaze falls on the large machine and lingers there. Finally, she notices you. She steps forward, a hint of trepidation in her eyes. Where are we? Do you know? How do I know that machine? It frightens me, and I don't know why. I don't know exactly. It feels familiar to me. If you don't know it, then maybe my mind created this place. I do remember one thing. She puts her hands to the sides of her head. I was angry, enraged. She turns on you. I don't know how, but there are women like me born throughout the city, repeatedly, against their will. My memories are flitting back to me like flies. What drove them away? What do you mean? They are compelled into existence. She bites her lip, uncertain. Then she nods. I'm just a memory, but something is forcing my memory into the minds of women throughout the city.
Making a note.
She takes your hand in hers. It's wrong. I don't know how I know, but... She looks away, lost in her own thoughts. When she turns back to you, there is more certainty in her voice. Find them. The women becoming like me or already like me. Maybe I'll remember more. Maybe we can do something. Okay, how do I find these women? They are in the real world, in Sagas. You may even have even met them without realizing it. I only have vague impressions of them. I know that one of them is a leader. She has sacrificed much of her life and so gained life in return. She shakes her head as though to clear it. I'm sorry, I can't tell you more than that. Have any more impressions of where I might find these women? One of them offers joy and sorrow for coin. Her family is not her own. It's borrowed, I think. She shakes her head as though to clear it. I'm sorry, I can't tell you more than that. Do I have any more impressions? One of them is dead, and he had a piece of her lips. Find that piece. I know that one of them is a leader. Okay, so we're...
I'm going.
Air is warm next to this machine, and you feel dizzy whenever you go near it.
Of course. Of course.
Spectre, am I glad you came out of that door? The thing just showed up. I didn't know what to expect. Do you know who the ghostly woman is in that fathom? He shakes his head. Don't know anything about that one. That way is blocked. He shrugs. It's not surprising, really. It's your mind, not mine. Most likely she's just a lacuna, a construct of your buried memories. Either that, or she's a reflection of someone you met in real life. Whoever or whatever she is, she probably isn't real. You're the only one with that distinction. He chuckles to himself. And me, by extension. Has anything changed since the last time I was here? Look around. It's your mind. What should I do now? Bakina. Alright. You're very useless. And I appreciate that about you.
I'm ready.
Don't worry, guys.
Waiting, dear. Shall we continue?
Look, you need to calm down, Callie. She raises an eyebrow and waits.
course.
Alright, let's run a quick gambit here. Dama said you're blind. What does that mean? He laughs. I used to be the spotter for this gang. It means I could sense the presence of the adversaries, build an attractive playground for them, and draw them after me. The last one I faced, though, his face falls. He draws into himself. It burned me out. It put out my eyes. It burned me out. It put out my... And then he is back to normal, smiling as if nothing had happened. Zyobie challenged me to find the person who's a psychic projection. Are you the one? He laughs. Now, why would I come right out and tell you? If Zyobie's playing a game, why should I spoil her fun? Come on, puzzle it up. But let me offer a clue. Know your subjects. I guess that's the kind of thing an empath would say, huh? That's all for now. Farewell. Leto! Being named O is here to give you a vision. Says you'll be the mother of empires. She stares at you, her mouth opening slightly. Her eyes flicker across the bar, landing on no one in particular. I have not yet received the vision. And a mother? Me. She shakes her head. I am barren. I will give no life. She pauses. Her hands are shaking. She whispers. I see only a stain when I look at myself, nothing more. A miasma occludes my vision of myself. Can you tell me any stories about your friends? Of whom did you want to speak? Tell me about Dama. He is the lodestone, the hoverglass, the light that lifts, and the rope that binds. His strength is our strength, and through him we become stronger. He is the caller, the bringer, the tactician, and the strategist. He brings us to this place, and in the future he is gone. She does not see you as she speaks. The unseen adversary claims him, unless, no, probabilities are too low. She shakes her head, bringing herself back to the present. Is he still here? She slashes a glance to Dama and breathes a sigh of relief. So it's definitely him. Tell me of Ferric, a seer of pain and love, a great light, his powers, speech and attraction, an empath, a weaver of hope and reconciliation. The story I love most is this. An angry citizen comes threatening violence, and Ferric eats his pain and makes a new man in his place. In those old strands, Ferric is my friend. And you mine, Leto. What about Zyobie? She gives herself too little credit. During the Cobalt breach, she erects a shield around her company and fires precise bolts of telekinetic rage into the attackers. She destroys their inhuman captain, hurling him from the walls into the dark space, and then dismembers the attackers who have come for me. In that day, she is my hero. She is the only one of us who can touch the physical world so completely. And when Dama dies, she stands to unite us. No, wait, this isn't real. Not yet. She slaps herself lightly and mutters, walk in this world, Leto, this world alone. What can you tell me about Thebros? He follows the trail of the words of Kra. He finds the dead village. In his mind, he seals the words, and they chew him to pieces until his brain has lost their knowledge altogether. She looks across the bar to the old man. No, that is a past possibility. That is not this reality. His mind is still intact. His stories still resonate. Is this the world in which he buries the last of the words of Kra? She shrugs. But he is the man who helps plan our battlefields. He shapes our expectations. It is he who brings the first adversary low. It shows him a story, and he tells it a better one. It bows to his vision before it knows his strength, and he traps it. He is a hero to this reality, although he knows it not. She shakes her head. I have spoken all the stories I will tell. That's all for now, thank you. Ferric! Tell me, good sir, how can I serve you today? Wait, did I ask her if she was the second projection? Are you a projection or are you real? Who can say what reality is? I see strands of possibility tying the future and the past together. Probabilities grow and decrease. Is a small probability a reality? In one universe, it will be. In another, it has vanished into the web of might-have-beens. An opportunity for nostalgia or gratitude at avoiding it. I tell you that reality is more than our perception of time. It exists beyond us. What is in the past extends into the future. Touch the threads of the past and you can see their intended shape. Know what it is that you seek and you will be able to discern your reality. Ah, what are you even saying, Leto? A smile touches her lips. Only that one who would question reality must know how that reality should behave. She faces you more fully. I am not this projection you seek.
Why not?
When she sees you, her smile is radiant. Do you bring news?
Yes.
You're back, Thebros says, as if it were an occasion for a surprise. Tell me stories about the others in this bar. I can, but I won't. Talk to them yourself. They all have a piece of wisdom that they carry in themselves, and I won't dishonor them by telling their stories for them. Scratches under the brim of his hat. I can eulogize them, but every story would start like, here's a warrior, selfless and self-absorbed, knowing about themselves so they can help the world. But they're all more than that. See if you can get them from a different perspective than me. Are you the psychic projection? A psychic projection. That's an interesting way to word it, Z. He tilts his head towards Ziobe. Couldn't you say we're all psychic projections in one way or another? He leans in. Put it this way. Are you always how I picture you? Does your behavior change based on my thoughts? Hadn't actually thought about it. Maybe just as well, unless you want to get into the philosophical self-satisfaction game like me, he cackles. You could argue both sides of the case. You exist apart from me, at least I hope you do, or my world has got a whole lot stranger. And you exist with me, or else we wouldn't be interacting with each other by squirting words at each other into the air. We might as well say that we're all interconnected at a fundamental level, that our thoughts and actions have effects on each other. It might not be reality, that is, the truth, but we each have a perception of a truth. It's a guiding star that we use to live our lives. It's not reality for everyone, but it's reality for us. It's our story. He rolls his eyes. Oh no, Ziobe. Dama rolls his eyes. Oh no, Ziobe. Thebros is getting started again. Hush you, I'm lecturing. Thebros turns back to you. Even if we don't understand reality, we understand stories. So maybe our best gauge for how we experience each other is through the stories we know and the words we use when we tell those stories. He laughs. What I'm really telling you is that I'm not Ziobe's projection. Maybe learn some of our tales and you'll get to the truth. A truth, anyway. I guess, man. I don't know. Are you the psychic projection? Me? No. No, indeed. In fact, I am projecting him now. It's my power that makes the projection possible. If I were you, I'd focus on physicality. Best of luck. So it's either Fariok or Dama. He hasn't moved from his position at the table, but he's accumulated more glasses and more plates. Nobody challenged me to find out which of you is a projection, so are you real? Me? I'm as real as they come, he slaps his belly. Could a projection do that? He pauses. Come to think of it, Zyobie probably could make one do that, and make it sound right, too. She's good. But how would you test whether a psychic emanation was real? Ebros said I should pay attention to your stories. I hate to say it, but he's right for once. What do the others say about me? Do I even have any interesting stories? Anything about growth, journey, change? Not sure I do have any good stories. I'm the same as I've always been. Sadly, more's the pity. Nino said I must know how reality must behave. Good advice. Am I behaving differently than others suggest I should in reality? So we said I should focus on physicality. Here's a hint. He reaches out and claps you on the shoulder. His fingers holding tight. Projections play on your expectations, but they're pierced easily. Leans back. Good luck with it. Variax said I should know my subjects. If you knew me, then you'd know there's nothing incongruous about how I'm behaving now. Touch him. He doesn't move and your finger sinks into his flesh. He grins. Satisfied? I don't know, man. Okay, I think I may have a lead on the identity of the adversary. I'm grateful for your help, friend. Tell me your suspicions, and I'll see if I can confirm them for you. That man in blue with the pipe and all the strange... No, the man in the yellow shirt. No. Talk to a being... No. Almost the Soul Keeper. What about him? He shakes his head. His is a tale of personal tragedy and sorrow, though perhaps the end result is not the worst for the people under his castle's titular care. Cast's titular care. But he is not the adversary. What? Could it be Clarion?
Updated my journal.
He bursts out laughing. I understand that her devotion to destruction might make her seem a monster. Like the rest of us, she is merely human. Well, I'm so confused. Talk to a being called O. Definitely not human. I have sensed O's presence and reached out to it with my mind. It is not an adversary. It's, well, I don't know how to describe it. But rest easy, because O probably wouldn't destroy you. Probably. What about the yellow shirt boy? That poor lost soul is not the adversary. He has been trapped in the form of an abacus, but is not an abacus himself. Do not fear him. Pity him. Okay, freaking ghost woman? Ah, yes, well, she's unpredictable and possibly dangerous. She's not an adversary. We've tried to remove her before, yet she always returns. Rather than risk any damage, we just stay out of her way. I'd advise you do the same. Okay, what about the dude in blue with all the Numenera? Sir Arthur? No, he's a wanderer and a collector of knowledge. But his interest appears to be entirely beneficent. Can I talk? He's a strange one, it's true, but no, he is not the adversary. I think I know who the psychic projection is. Ugh, she laughs and crosses her arms. Who? Gosh, I think it's Fariok. She laughs delightedly. I won't even ask how you figured that out. If you guessed, it was a lucky guess, but your instincts were right. Then her face falls. I began manifesting him after he was killed. He was our spotter, the man who saw the adversaries and lured them to our battleground. But the last adversary we fought, it was ready for us, caught hold of the lure he offered, and it followed his mind all the way to reality. It burned. She pauses, chokes back a sob. It burned him from the inside. She looks into the distance. He lured it to us, and with his dying will, nailed it into place. It was a sacrifice any of us would have made, Zyobie. No matter who was in that position. Dama speaks softly, as if trying to convince himself. She continues. The adversary didn't pay attention to us. Even as we poured our heaviest attacks into it, it was too absorbed in destroying Fariok, tearing him apart instead of defending itself, as if its first priority was in blinding us, instead of preserving itself. Her voice turns hard. We beat it, though. So as long as I'm breathing, I'll keep his memory alive. He'll serve his drinks and make his bad jokes, and everyone here will feel welcome. It's the least I can do in his name.
Yes.
So, like, what?
Of course.
Go.
In this world, then. We shall see.
I'm ready.
There's no one else here. What are the adversaries? I don't know. What we see isn't the whole picture, we know that. It's an extrusion into our world, just a piece of the creature's psychic material. Maybe it's a conscious unit on its own. Maybe it's self-directed. But my deepest fear is that every adversary we've seen is the smallest piece of a singular entity, that our pushback is drawing its attention ever so slowly toward us. He shivers. If you ever meet one, you'll know why that frightens me so. So, I'm very confused. It seems like there's no... How did I... Well, I didn't find an adversary. They said there's an adversary there. I talked to everybody and they're like, nope, none of those people are an adversary. Alright. We're gonna save. This has been a WeakT Gaming video. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, punch the little notification bell, maybe give us a like or a comment, and you know what? You have a nice day.